So, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the very first Live and Leash podcast of 2021. Delighted to be joined from Rathdowney, all the way from Rathdowney, Hannah Cahill. Good. Great to have you back, Hannah. And I'm Trudy Carmody. Trudy, how are you?
Good, John. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year is right. And let's zoom through this year very quickly and get back to some kind of normality, please. Now, we'll set off on a positive note as always. Snow. Wonderful snow there on Thursday last. Are ye snow people, ladies?
I'll let Trudy go first with that one.
I might have been when I was Hannah's age, but from a practical point of view, no. I don't mind snow if I've nowhere to go. I have enough food and the heating is working, then it's fine. And it's lovely. The pictures it throws up are fabulous. It's nice, crisp, clean air. It's not rain. It's not damp. So it's nice. It's a nice alternative to what we've been having.
Exactly.
That's very
How about
true.
you, Hannah?
Yeah. I'm not too much of a snow person. I'd say the only day I'd tolerate snow is Christmas Day. Pretty much. Like when I was younger, when I was in secondary school, I need to trudge through snow in a skirt. Not really my cup of tea, but I was playing outside with my dog and my younger siblings earlier, so it was kind of nice, but normally no. I'm not a cold creature.
Right. Well, then it must mean I'm a very, very big kid. Yes.
Really?
I just loved it. Boots on, got the
We're out
layers
building
on.
snowmen.
Yeah. Well, I went out. I left the house very early this morning and was filming for hours around Portlaoise. What does that say about me? God help us.
Big child, John, a big child.
Yeah.
Oh,
Exactly. So
Did you make a snowman?
No, but I took some lovely photos of snowmen.
Fabulous.
I saw some of them on the Leash People Facebook page. They were brilliant.
Absolutely. And would you believe there's more of the good stuff to come? There were so many photos sent in. There's more to go up tomorrow. That's the good news.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Looking forward to it.
You should have a best snow competition and see if one of the local businesses might get on board and offer a prize.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the snowmen on display were just brilliant. So well done. So the kids and the big kids.
Like yourself, John.
Yeah, exactly. There's no hope for me. Now, Hannah, over to you. What's happening down in Rathdowney in your neck of the woods?
Very little going on at the minute.
Very honest.
We're all still getting fat off the tins of roses, breaking our New Year's resolutions around here.
Yes.
I mean, the social housing development is still going on Main Street in Rathdowney, where there's 6 houses
Yes.
being built on Main Street, and I mean, pretty much how it's going here in Laois in Rathdowney, but
Okay.
not much other news.
Okay, but on that, I mean, why is there a distinction made between social housing and non-social housing? And do you think it's another daft blurring of the lines? It's like with the education.
As in,
You have special education can go back to school, and mainstream education, apart from 6 kids, can't.
well, I mean, I saw them at it there yesterday. I went downtown and I saw them working. I mean, hopefully they stopped today. If today was when they were supposed to stop, or is it Friday? Construction's supposed to stop.
Yes.
But I mean, there's a lot. Like we were talking earlier about the line between special education and mainstream education. It's shocking, really. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, there should be a bit of a distinction for helping, say, special education, like kind of
Yes.
looking out.
Yes.
But I think in regards to what's been happening this week with the one to open special schools,
Yes.
I don't think that was a great choice. I think it was quite daft, to be honest.
Well, you're being very diplomatic there.
And I'll throw in the opposite side of that. As the parent of an autistic child, routine is extremely important to a lot of children with extra needs or special needs. So from that point of view, and their mental health and the mental health and sleep of the parents of the children, to get them back into the school, and they would have smaller numbers than a full school back, would probably be a great help for the child. Would sleep better, would be in better form, and would just make a nicer, easier day for the child and the family, because that child is back in a routine. So just to have the opposite
Absolutely.
argument, or just
See,
to throw that out there.
I couldn't agree more. See, I'm biased because I don't come from a home where we have, like, I don't have relatives that would attend a special school, so I don't have that insight that you have. But earlier today, I was speaking to a close family friend who is an SNA in a special school, who is totally against the reopening. I know they've announced in the last hour that special schools, special education schools, will not be reopening. But, when I was talking with her, she said it's very hard when, like, an hour ago, they didn't know if they'd have PPE gear provided. They said it's quite hard because a lot of how they educate is very physical. Like, she said they'd have to hold hands with kids if they're bringing them outside.
Yes.
It's very hard to maintain social distancing. There's a lot of kids getting buses together. But it's two totally valid arguments. I mean, there's no right or wrong. It's just the country.
The logistics would be terrifying from the PPE gear or lack of PPE gear. Then, like you said, the social distance that has to be kept and physically can't be kept, because that child does need, a lot of them are runners and they would take off. So you do need to hold on to that child. So I think an idea, just to throw it out there, I think an idea that someone had was just thrown out before it was given much thought, argument. Like we've just had that. There's two very valid points, two very valid sides of the same coin. And you can see equally, you can see both. But neither, it would look like, were considered before the statement was made.
Yes.
Yeah.
And ladies, I have another bombshell for you. The central tenet, or one of the central tenets of the current government, was to keep the schools open. Okay?
Yeah.
But you can go on to gov.ie and they have a list of the priorities, which sections of society get the vaccine first. Teachers, wait for it, are down at number 11.
Wow.
I remember seeing that, yeah. You can understand why they'd put first, like, teachers should be classed as nearly frontline workers in a way. Like, they are essential workers. They should be much higher on the list, I think, anyway.
Well, they've made them essential workers when they decided to keep the schools open all the way through the pandemic. So that puts them as essential workers. So then for this, they've decided they're not.
It's a lot of picking and choosing, and it's kind of ridiculous. It's a bit embarrassing, to an international audience, the way our government is handling this.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they give the impression, maybe it's not true, but they do give the impression, especially with the education sector, that they are making it up as they go along.
Oh, absolutely.
Would that be too harsh?
No. I mean, look at the difference in Monday to today. I mean, Monday, absolutely, the schools will open on the 11th. Then, was it yesterday? Oh, only the sixers will go back. And now today, sure, we'll leave them all closed. Like, it's...
They throw out, like I said about the special schools, they throw out a random, unthought, unargumented, unresearched statement, wait for feedback. Oh, they didn't like that, change it. And then they throw out another one. Oh, they still didn't like that one, change it. So it really is a case of, I think you've hit the nail on the head, John. They're making it up as they go along. They're looking for public reaction to each statement and changing accordingly.
Okay, so you're saying their policy at the moment is completely dictated by public opinion?
That's the way it kind of looks.
Yeah, I think I remember I saw yesterday, they were very strict. Like we saw Norma Foley speaking yesterday. She was kind of dodging questions, saying, you know, the schools are safe, the schools are safe. But I saw on Twitter a lot of commentary was, you know, she's forgetting that next year the 6th years will be able to vote, and that's the kind of mindset. I think they're kind of going, oh, okay, yeah, maybe that's not the best idea. We didn't think it through. Sure, we'll do this way if that's what the people want. Just to try keep our jobs and stay in power. You know, it's kind of, you know.
Now, ladies, this whole week has got me thinking about if you think take your minds back to last April, when they decided, last April, last May, decided that, you know, the Leaving Cert 2020 couldn't go ahead and you'd have predicted grades. And I mean, at the time, I didn't think of it, but maybe they should have decided the same for 2021 at the same time and take a lot of pressure off a lot of people across the board.
I think it affected this year's 6th years, as in the 2021 year Leaving Cert students were affected even more. And I don't want to be flippant about last year's, but I'm going to put it out there. Most of your Leaving Cert course is covered before Christmas of 6th year. And from then on is spent revising. Okay, the revision is important, don't get me wrong. But for the 5th years who are now 6th years, they missed 6 months of a curriculum. They haven't really had much between September and Christmas. I know they were back, but it's under these dreadful circumstances. And now they've nothing again. So I think these 6th years are more affected than last year's ones. And I think they'd be very foolish not to take that into consideration.
I think, like John said, why didn't they consider the Leaving Certs of 2021 back in when they were dealing with 2020? I think that was because they were kind of holding out the hope that they knew in their hearts they probably wouldn't have things together. They kind of suspected we'd be at this point this year, but they kind of also needed the public to have faith that we'd be okay.
Yep.
Now, my brother is a Leaving Cert. I did my Leaving Cert in 2019, right? My brother, like I have friends who would have done theirs last year, and I mean they were at the point where they were coming up to their mocks, so they had pretty much the course finished, right? My brother they haven't finished the course at all. They're struggling. And the teachers were giving them constant, like, weekly exams. So in the case predictive grades did come up for his year, they'd be prepared, you know. But he's like, the last 3 days have been so stressful for him because, you know, there's people in my house with underlying health conditions. He was freaking out, oh God, like, what's going to happen? And the stress of that on 6 years around the country, 60,000 students, it's not right.
No, it's not right.
And then
sorry, Trudy. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, if your school decides to go online, is what your school offers as good as what my school offers? And is your internet, for people outside the big cities like ourselves, is your internet good enough to cope? So these are stresses that a 17, 18-year-old is having to cope with. And that's not it shouldn't be part of the life of an 18-year-old.
Correct.
Absolutely. Correct. And one of the problems, actually, that not just my 17-year-old brother, but I have younger siblings as well in secondary school and even in primary school, they've noticed that the work they do, like online, right, they're sent questions and said, fill those out. But it's not like, in some cases, they don't do it over Zoom where the studies are explained. They're often just sent out essay questions or little maths questions and stuff. Like, this is at all age groups. So there is a big difference.
I have a child in 5th year and he has had nothing on Zoom since the start of this pandemic. He sent out questions and essays and assignments, we'll call them assignments. He has been sent those out since the start. I have never seen corrections come back. And if you're being given assignments and not had a class, or you don't understand the topic, who are you going to talk to say, I don't understand this topic? So that's less than ideal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and it's affecting it like all ages. I mean, I'm in college. It's very different though. Like we're supposed to have online lectures. In most cases, we'd only have about 40% of our lectures would be actually given to us. But it's so important for the Leaving Cert. And even the junior certs and stuff, they're all pulling their hair out at the minute. There needs to be more support for them, you know?
Of course. So maybe just go with predictive grades. Make the decision now.
If you go with the predictive grades, I'll go back to my house and our situation. My son hasn't had anything on Zoom to date, actually, and we're at the end of the first week for the 10th of 9th to 10th of January, and I've had no communication from the school, nothing. So at this moment, if I was to go, or my son was to get predicted grades, then I'm not sure he'd get the grades he'd need.
That's I was having this discussion with my brother, and he said, you know, they're going with predictive grades. They also take into account your attendance. So say you're from a household where you have a family member who has a lung condition. You don't go into school when the schools were open because of this, right? Yes. Your points will be lower because of this. You know, they're not taking, like, your absences, they were for the last Leaving Cert, they will be this time, you know, taken into account. You might not get your course because of this. I think the government are just a bit afraid of having to actually, like, completely reform the Leaving Cert for the future. And I think that's why there's a lot of tiptoeing around this at the minute, you know.
Well, why not get rid of it? Like I did the Leaving back in 1986, and of course our two kids here have gone through it quite recently. It hasn't changed.
No, 70 years. I mean, they introduced for second years. There's these things, CBAs, class-based assessment, right? Yeah. That just means some exams you would do for the juniors would be taken into account, right? But we know, the whole country knows, the Leaving Cert, well, it won't. It's basically a memory test. It's a memory test of not even the fact that it's stuff you might use in the future, but it's just so unfair to so many students. Students with learning disabilities, students with things going on in their lives that they don't study well. It's really unfair, I think.
Just because you can learn something off by heart and spit it back out again onto a piece of paper, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will make a good heart surgeon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and
in a nutshell.
I mean, I have friends that went through back doors to get into medicine and stuff because they didn't get the points. Like, I've a relative who's a doctor now who isn't good at memorizing and studying for the Leaving Cert. It's so boxed, you know, but he got like 90s and stuff in college, you know. So it really goes to show it's a failure.
That shows, doesn't it, how that one system completely worked for him, i.e. college, and the Leaving Cert which is basically a memory test, just didn't. Or I have a daughter, Quiva, studying in the Netherlands, and around Europe, to get into college, you have to get 2 Ds on 2 honours subjects and 2 passes, and you do a letter to prove that you really want to do the subject that you have chosen to do. That's it.
Yeah.
It goes in, you just prove that this is what I want to do and why I want to do it, and I would be suited to this topic because, and a basic Leaving Cert is required. That is it.
Yeah.
And as well as that, it's half the price. In some countries in Europe, if you look through it, like Germany and Denmark, they're free. And it's whatever's available to a European country, to their citizens, is also available to us as EU citizens. So if it's free in Germany, taught through English. If it's free in Germany, then it's free for our children as well. And you can take your Susie grants abroad with you as well.
There you go.
So win-win. So why don't we, as in this country, now use this opportunity? And if we don't, I think it would be seriously missed opportunity. Why don't we use this opportunity to look at doing what Europe does? And
I think because the Irish government are always about 30 years behind in a lot of cases, you know, and it's not until it's too late that we decide we'll take a step forward. Like, you're dead right, really, but that's just...
That's just
reactionary, not
yeah.
proactive.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Reacting to events, not proactive.
Yeah.
Now we'll move to more good news away from education and the quagmire that's education. I have good news about Portlaoise Hospital. And ladies, good news today, quoting Midlands 103 here, shout out to Midlands 103, the first staff member at Portlaoise Regional Hospital was vaccinated against COVID-19 today.
That's brilliant.
Adel Orel Casabar, a staff nurse in A&E, she received the Pfizer-BioNTech jab from her colleague, Mary Gilligan. And that's wonderful. And starting today, all staff at the hospital will receive the first dose of the vaccine from a peer vaccination team of up to 20 nurses working Monday to Saturday. So they're working a 6-day week, 6-day week. Well done.
That is amazing.
Well done.
Fair play.
Well done.
And Portlaoise Hospital, to be fair, have handled this crisis impeccably, expertly, right from day one. They completely covered themselves in PPE gear and just went 100% at it from the start. When everyone else was, I'm not so sure and we'll tiptoe around this, they said, no, put the rules down. This is the way we're doing it. And it paid off.
Yep.
It seriously paid off for staff and patients.
Yep. And a big shout out to all nurses, doctors, all our frontline workers doing a great job, including
especially the student nurses. You can't forget about those. They're being so overlooked.
Yeah, well, again, they weren't to be paid, and now they're getting €100 a week, but it's not classed as a payment. What do you think of that, ladies?
I mean,
left speechless. May as well have handed them a £5.
Sorry?
May as well have handed them a £5 and said thanks. One is as insulting as the other.
It is.
How many hours a week have they to work to get €100? Yeah.
50, 60?
I'm friends with a lot of student nurses. My first cousin, Emma, she's amazing. She's a year younger than I am. I'm 20. She's 19. She is working in a nursing home since the start of this pandemic, right? She's in college studying nursing, but she works 12-hour shifts all the time. She's never done. And the PPE gear, if she has actual cuts on her face from wearing all this PPE gear, she does night shifts. She's never done. And she cares for her patients so much. And when you see these student nurses and the effort and the work they put in, like the time they dedicate, and they care so much and they work so hard, it's just disrespectful, the fact that they're not being paid the same amount.
Question for you. Is it because the nature of people who are doctors, nurses, teachers, it is a vocation? So is it that because it is a vocation, we are now going to take advantage of you and your kind personality? Because you're not going to let these people be sick, because you're the type of person who will get in there and help.
Yeah.
Because generally they are, and that's why nursing was chosen, and that's why they're working or want to work in that environment. So are they taking complete advantage of nice people?
I think it also has to come down to age and how soon you enter the profession. You know, it's like with the student teachers and stuff. I mean, not even student teachers, like the teachers that qualified and were getting like half of what other teachers they were working with. It's a lot of, I don't want to say ageism, because
just on a point of fact now, Hannah, it wouldn't be half, but it'd be substantially less than their senior colleagues are getting.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Sorry, but I think a lot of it has to come down to how new you are to it. You know.
Yeah, I think definitely, Trudy, you're on to something there. I think they are being taken advantage of in a sense. I mean, just to just looking at Portlaoise Hospital, as of 8 p.m. last Wednesday, Midland Regional Hospital in Portlaoise were treating 13 patients for COVID-19. of the 13, 3 were acute. That's their day-to-day work, and we're quibbling about basically raising their salaries, or in the cases of student nurses, giving them anything at all. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. And of course, long-term, then HSE executives are scratching their heads, wondering why there's a brain drain out of our health system when fully qualified doctors and nurses go abroad to further their careers.
Sure, why could you stay? Why would you stay? Was there a case, or am I completely wrong, that they did a call for overseas nurses and doctors to come back, and they haven't been given an opportunity to work?
Well, in some cases, yes, there was a call went out to bring those trained medical professionals home. And in some cases, not all cases, in some cases, there was a huge time lag between them coming home and them being placed in positions.
Okay.
So you're asking people to uproot their families, their whole lives, to come back home, and the system obviously in some cases didn't work as efficiently as it should have.
Wow.
Yeah,
Here's another point. People, and I'm dealing with the same age people, who maybe worked 5 or 10 hours a week leading up to the pandemic, are now still in receipt of a COVID payment, which at the lowest rate is 200 or 203 or something. So they are getting more than what the student nurses are getting for working a 50 or 60 hour week through a pandemic, because they're going into a job where there are guaranteed in Portlaoise 13 people who could pass that virus on to me. I'm going into that environment knowingly, willingly, for practically free.
Yes.
That €100 couldn't pay for your travel and your lunch expenses. Couldn't.
I agree. I think we should be focusing though more so on how can we fix how understaffed we are, right? And how can we compensate, like, because we're so understaffed, like I was saying about my cousin earlier, like she'd have to work extra hours because they're so understaffed. It's overwhelming. And like you're saying, these nurses are putting themselves at risk. Like my cousin has had to hold hands of elderly people who passed away, all of this kind of stuff. It's awful. But I think instead of, because we're so we're being torn apart right now, this whole pandemic, it's so all over the place, but the handling of the government has us nearly tearing each other apart over this. Instead of fighting at other people that are going through the pandemic, I think we should be mainly focusing on how can we fix all this? You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, you're quite right, Hannah. Yeah, unfortunately, the at times shambolic handling by the government of this crisis hasn't engendered a lot of confidence, really.
That's it.
Confidence. You know, you have to be confident in the leadership. Student nurses. I mean, I think it's an easy fix. Pay them what their fully qualified colleagues, or a proportion of the salaries that they're fully qualified.
They need to be given something that they deserve.
Yeah.
And they're also, so long term, as in not today, so probably not long term, but medium term, immediately they need to get more money. And then medium term to long term, Hannah is right, those numbers need to be dealt with. The system needs to be dealt with. Like coming into next winter, say the vaccines go out and everybody is fine by March, April, May. Next October, November, who's to say this doesn't come back and attack the vulnerable groups in society? Those nurses are back on the line.
Yes.
Nothing has been put in place. So procedures need to be put in place. Staff need to be put in place to handle if that comes back. But if it doesn't, or whether it does or not, we still don't seem to be able to cope with going through a winter in any of our hospitals in this country. And that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah, because there seems to be an appalling lack of forward planning,
That's the
and
We
point.
should look at,
an alarming lack, and has been the case for 30 years, as long as I've been an adult. I can remember it being the shambles every single winter. There seems to be a lack of joined up thinking.
Yeah.
mm,
Sad, sad to
I
say.
couldn't agree more.
Sad to say.
Um,
But
yeah,
That's
I actually,
yeah,
if you saw what the French did, the French granted citizenship, full citizenship to all frontline workers that were
yeah,
immigrants, right? And
yes,
that was the first step they took, which just helped them so much. You know, we should be looking at success stories in other countries like France, if
yeah.
they're- just to start. You know,
Well, the market leader for me at the moment in how to handle a pandemic is Taiwan. Again,
Yeah.
shout out to Taiwan. They were on the ball from day one. They
Mm.
they sent over two health officials very early on to Wuhan in China, mainland China, and they didn't believe the BS they were being given by the local officials there. They went back to Taiwan and said, this is bad. It's going to get very, very bad. And Taiwan went through the SARS, if you remember the SARS epidemic back in 2003. It was shambolic how they handled that, but they learned their lessons. They learned
yeah,
their lessons. They put systems in place, communication systems, planning systems. They had the qualified staff they needed. They had the resources they needed. And that just sprung into action when the two officials went back to Taiwan and said, this is going to be bad. And they were listened to, they were believed. Okay, the professionals were listened to, and that's what you need to do. Listen to the professionals. I mean, you know, should we have opened up for Christmas? In hindsight, no.
Mm.
But again,
I think they did because they knew people were going to defy it anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I think
yeah,
it's in the same way. It's safer.
mm,
It's just they knew people were going to defy it, so it's
yep,
safer to have
absolutely.
those kind of
Yeah,
measures. But
human nature, Hannah.
Yeah,
it
but
is.
Nature.
they didn't put systems in place. Just open it.
That's true.
Yeah, but
You know, if you're going to do it, then set
yeah,
procedures in place. Be organized. As John said, be confident. Stop making random statements and waiting for a reaction to judge whether that's the way it's going to go or not.
yeah,
That's true. But I think at the same time, it's very hard to be confident with something like this. You know, it
Completely.
is. You know,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
odd. It's strange times, really.
Strange times,
know?
but I mean, the vaccines are there. They need to
is.
be rolled out faster.
Yeah, the rate we're going, they said 5% by the end of March is just,
Well,
yeah,
well,
five.
I
swear
have
God.
I have it up on the screen there. As of the 4th of January, we are worst in the world per capita for COVID-19
Yeah.
cases,
Wow.
and we are second worst in the selected countries for the rollout, the pace of the rollout of the vaccination. So we're worst in class and worst in class at the two ends of the spectrum.
When you
So,
It's
researched that
embarrassing.
data, John, was there a reason? Was there a valid reason?
well, a valid reason. Well, I'll be quite honest about it. I mean, there's a lack of competence, a lack of integrated planning, um, and a lack of proactive approach. I mean, we seem to be very slow. I think it's a lot of it is the public sector. Now, don't get me wrong, we need the public sector, but large parts of it move at a very, very slow pace.
That's
And
true.
and this really, really, back in last March, we should have thrown our doors open to, from Google all the way over to whatever private sector expertise is out there and say, look, this is unprecedented. This is the worst crisis we've had in 100 years in this state. We need the best brains out there helping us. And
See, we're supposed to be. Sorry, John. Go on.
No, Hannah, go on. No, jump in.
We're the fifth in relation to science. We're the fifth best country in either Europe. I'm going to say Europe, not the world, but we're the fifth highest.
Yes.
And have you seen how Israel has been rolling out the vaccines, right? So yeah, it's fantastic. The method they're taking is fantastic. And look at us, right? We're supposed to be on the ball, but look at it's like I said earlier, it's nearly embarrassing to an international audience, and it is how bad things are here.
Well, it's pathetic.
I mean,
I have to say
it is.
You know, at the pace we're going now with the vaccination rollout, we won't have the required percentage of the population vaccinated by the end of this year, early next year. So, lads, just up the pace, please. I mean, the schools will be closed now. Here's a thought: turn the schools into vaccination clinics.
If they're so safe.
If they're so safe, yes, the schools were safe.
Well,
the virus is done. Oh, I know.
I guarantee one of the sixters affected this year would have a better method of rolling out these vaccines than the current government does. Any sixter, I'd say, would have a better regiment for doing this, because I'd say a toddler at this point could run the country during a pandemic better.
Well,
you know.
Well, absolutely. But what I don't understand was back in March, we brought in people from the army and other parts of our society to do contact tracing. And then in the summer of 2020, they were allowed to go back to their everyday professions. Surely then we should have taken on more contact tracing personnel then, even though they mightn't have had an immediate need for them, and also train those people up to basically to roll out a vaccination program. So when they weren't required for contact tracing, they could switch over.
So you're hoping for a plan.
But there wasn't a plan.
That's what I mean. You're hoping, or you were hoping for a plan. It wasn't forthcoming.
No.
And here's to bring the woman thing into, because we do outnumber you tonight, John.
Yes. Good.
The breast checks have stopped because they have been rerouted. So you know that's important. Why would you stop important essential testing to get contact tracing? And if you took some of the people like that are on the PUP, I'm on the PUP payment, I'd gladly do something. I'd quite happily be trained online and be left on standby for if I'm needed. That wouldn't have cost them very much. You know, but don't take them out of people like the departments that are doing the breast check.
Yeah. I didn't know that, and I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, that's appalling.
I'm referring to.
It's not the only one. It's not the only service that's gone. No other important service. That was just said on radio, I think last week or the week before. I hadn't realised that had stopped. But they've just put it on the long finger. So people are waiting. And if you found something sinister, you're just waiting. And that wait could be that little bit too long.
Life or death, really.
Life or death. Sorry to hear that. So look, we're going to lament the lack of forward planning, and on and on and on and on. But it is, we are where we are, unfortunately.
It goes with the death of common sense and the death of forward planning.
Sure, we knew from day one we'd need a vaccine. You know, we knew there'd be a day where a vaccine is going to come here.
Our vaccines, and we have multiple vaccines on the way.
Yeah, and actually, believe it or not, a big problem, a big issue with the rollout is that there's people, say, in nursing homes that you have to contact their family as to whether they should, like, they're not compos mentis, whether they should receive the vaccine or not, which is it's a hindrance.
Yes.
All of this should have been laid out, since we knew, okay, we're going to be getting a vaccine in the
Yes.
next while. We can see the way things are going. Why was
It
this not
wasn't a
done?
surprise.
Yeah, it should have been done
So,
last March, ladies.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, we knew there was going to be one coming
Yes.
at some point. You know, I mean, ages ago we thought, some people were saying, oh, it could be years. But even when we were watching like Moderna and Pfizer kind of go, oh, 94% effective, 90%, why then were plans not set up? You know,
It's baffling. It's baffling.
Reactionary, not proactionary.
Yeah, absolutely.
that's it.
Absolutely.
You know,
Ladies,
It
well
all
said.
comes down to the planning thing.
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah. Or lack of.
Yeah.
yeah,
Now,
lack thereof,
ladies,
yeah.
moving on to my last item of the evening, the green light has been given to a biogas plant just outside Portlaoise. The facility will be located in the Coolnamona Bog, and that covers parts of the townlands of Clonboyne and Clonkeen. And biogas, we have it up on the screen there, and we have it up on our website as well. Just an explanation about what biogas is, and it's the equivalent of natural gas. And 260 objections were handed in, delivered to stop this facility going ahead. It looks like this planning decision will be appealed to on board Planada. What do you think of it? Should it go ahead? Shouldn't it go ahead? Are we in this country, ladies? I'll put it to you. I'll ask this: are we always saying no, no, no to every new development? Not in my backyard, please.
No, but I live 3-4 kilometers away from Clonkeen.
Yes.
I have to drive past Clonkeen to come home.
Yes.
Will the road take the estimated 30,000 trucks annually? No. In a word, no. There are parts of that road in and out that you can't see ahead. And it's not wide enough for 2 cars. 30,000 trucks.
A year. Yeah.
So where you might not have a problem with the plant, I do have a problem with, or I would like to see the access roads dealt with. I'd like to see how they're going to cope with 30,000 trucks annually, which is what they envisage. There's 80,000 tons of waste going to go into it. Now, there was objections. They objected about that. They objected about the smell, the environmental damage, all of that.
Yes.
So I'd like to see the issues being dealt with. But I think the number one problem for me would be how to get in and out safely in a small rural setting.
Yes.
30,000 trucks.
Well, absolutely. It's a huge volume of traffic.
It's 6,000 trucks a week, give or take.
Yes. Yes.
That's a hell of a lot of truck. And it's open 24/7. So if I'm living right beside it, how do I sleep? How do I get to work? How do my kids play safely out on the road? I route through a rural area so the kids, I don't have to be out there watching them permanently on a country road. They could cycle their bikes up and down the road from the age of 2 or 3 or whatever. That's not going to be possible with that volume of traffic. No, I'm just looking at the practical nature.
Yes.
Then I could move on to the other reason, but I think that, for me, would have to be dealt with first. How do they think that site can cope with that amount of traffic?
Very good point.
And if not, then a better area.
Yes.
They were looking initially at Caltaleisha out on the Mount Mellick Road.
Correct. It's the same company that owns that facility as well.
Yeah. But that, from an access point of view, would be better. I'm not privy to how that went or the objections that went in with that or why. But Clonkeen the roads are just so narrow and so small.
Has to be dealt with.
I think so.
Yeah. We'll watch that. I'm assuming an objection and appeal will be lodged. But
why were they dealt with? I mean, from my knowledge of it, there was 260 objections, and it was to do with the traffic and the access and the
And the
environmental
smells.
and smell and
Yeah.
all of that. But were they not taken into consideration, or were they just granted planning? They were granted planning with conditions, but I can't
With
see the
conditions. Yeah.
so we don't know the conditions yet.
It was a very
yes, Hannah, sorry.
I was just going to say it was a very purposeful move to wait, like in the middle of a pandemic, when you know residents can't meet, they can't call in professionals, to plow through with this plan. It was a very intentional thing. You know?
It was strategic.
Absolutely.
And 5th of January, Christmas week, chances are people won't have seen that go through.
Yeah, that's very true. See, I think I agree with the residents and their concerns completely, right? They're dead right. I didn't know what a biogas plant was this morning, right? When I heard biogas plant in Portlaoise, you'd nearly imagine a type of Chernobyl kind of situation, right? And I was going, what are they doing, right?
It's far from it. It's far from it.
Yeah.
We have an explanation up on the website as well. We have it on the screen as we speak here.
Yeah.
Exactly what biogas is.
Exactly. And I did my research and all of that. It's nearly like a glorified compost bin, right? The whole thing, the idea.
Yeah.
But like, as Trudy was saying, you know, the roads are terrible. There's a house within 200 meters. Like, there's residents within 200 meters of this place, right?
Yes.
I understand. I agree with what you were saying earlier with how the Irish are always like, oh, you know, not next to my house. We'll turn down these ideas, right? In theory, like we already have 31 of these plants in Ireland. We have two big ones, one in Mitchelstown, Cork, and one in Kildare, right? They're really successful, like fantastically successful. Like in Cork, it powers something like 56,000 houses. The one in Cork in Mitchelstown does, right?
And just as on a point of information, this plant, if it does go ahead in Clonkeen, would power 5,500 homes. So it's on a smaller scale.
It is as well, yeah, it is.
30,000 trucks annually and 80 tons of wastage for 5,000 houses. So I'll ask
5,500.
Wow. So I'll ask the question, and I will do absolutely everything for the environment, as you know.
Yes.
But how does that work? How is that environmentally friendly? 30,000 trucks, 5,500 houses. Surely the diesel, the maintenance of the trucks.
Yes, it's a very good. That's a very valid point. It is.
It is a valid point, right? But at the same time, right, the one in Mitchelstown reduced 170,000 tons of harmful CO2 emissions every year. It reduces, right? It's kind of like saying, look, like, you know, it's bad, but it's for a greater good, a greater picture. Like they think by 2050, if we do roll out these around the country, which we've already started, half of our gas supply will be through these means, through this gas. Biogas, exactly. But I mean, we're the furthest behind in Europe doing this, right? In
many
Germany,
fields, Hannah.
Oh, I know. Like we've talked about this. This program tonight is just, listen, lads, we're so behind. But in Germany, they've like 9,000 in rural areas. In Italy, they've 1,900. Right?
Yes.
We have 31. We could have had 32. Do I think it's a great idea? Yeah, but near residents, no. Like the group protesting against it in Portlaoise, they're calling themselves Portlaoise Action Against Bog Superdump, right?
Okay.
It's I can understand where they're coming from. Is you know, that's the problem. But the thing is with the trucks, actually, you said, Trudy, the trucks would only be going from 8 a.m. to 6:30. It's Monday to Friday, and then on Saturdays it's 8 until 1. Yeah. That's enough now. Can you imagine you wanted to sell your house as well? Say you said, look, I've enough of this. I want to sell this place. I can't stick the smell. I can't stick the noise. It's not safe for my kids.
Yeah.
How are you going to manage to do that? You know? I'm sure there's plenty of better places away from residential areas that this would have been suited for.
But now to answer for them, and I'm not saying I disagree, but they own the bogs. They're trying to find different uses for the bogs. So I can understand why they're looking at that. But I just don't see the infrastructure and the access, and I agree right beside houses.
Yeah.
There has to be a better way. And these gases, I mean, they're dealing with the biogas, but biogas is a gas that will generate itself of our own waste anyway. So it's going into the environment, so why not use it? But 5,500 houses, there has to be more. Now, if I'm looking at 5,500 houses are being powered, but it's also reducing the emissions by a huge amount as well, then I'm looking at two things. The 5,500 houses then becomes a bonus, and the gas emissions are the goal. The goal is not the houses, that's a bonus, but the goal is to reduce the emissions. So I do like that. I'd like to see the figures on that. I haven't seen the figures on that.
Yes.
But I'll still go back to the argument, 30,000 trucks and access.
You're right. And I mean, people, not just the group, like Sean Fleming and Brian Stanley and all have all come out, in support of the residents, saying this can't happen. Why weren't we properly consulted? So I don't really see it going ahead. Maybe somewhere else, but not necessarily there, to be honest.
Is Brian Stanley's wife not a councillor?
Yeah,
she is.
Caroline
Stanley.
So how was Brian not informed? How did Brian? Are we then thinking that neither was Caroline?
We're not privy to that. We don't know.
Oh.
No.
We don't really know who voted what, because there were councillors that it wasn't a unanimous. Unanimous, it wasn't, as far as I'm aware.
Yep.
Yeah. So there were some that must have voted against it.
We'll watch this with interest going forward. It's an interesting one. Like the bigger picture, and there is a bigger picture. Obviously, Bord and Mona want to pivot their business away to what they were doing. I mean, they have no choice in the matter. And obviously, the Bord and Mona workers, they have to be retrained for these new roles in a greener economy. And obviously, Portlaoise and Laois, we're trying to position ourselves at the forefront of this new green environment revolution, really, that has to happen. We can't keep putting it off. It would be great if we're a brand leader. I'd hate to see, a plant like this and controversy around it slowing that impetus, that drive, that
the wave of green we have going.
But, it's not a bad idea. It's not the idea that we are arguing is the wrong word, but it's not the idea that we're arguing. To reduce the gas emissions, box tick, that's amazing. To come up with a use for the gases, i.e. the 5,500 houses, that's amazing. I'd personally like to see more when I look at 30,000 trucks. It is just the logistics around the entire thing. That's all.
Okay.
I agree. I think, definitely.
Ladies, would you not run for the council or even higher? Go for the dole.
We'll see where 2021 gets us, and then we'll consider it. Yeah.
I think we need more capable women in basically councils and the Dáil.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
Soon, ladies. So, ladies, thanks for again, Hannah. Great to have you back again, and truly great to have you on board.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Shout out to Evan Tracy, because our sports podcast will go out every Wednesday at 9:00, and Evan Tracy from Wolf Hill is joining myself and Stephen Kelly. So we have a good spread across the county. Now we are looking for more presenters, and we definitely are looking for some more female presenters, because an emphasis going forward with our sports podcast will be ladies sport. It's a field. It's a field that the profile is too low. Doesn't make any sense. You're not catering to 50% of your potential viewership. So going forward, that's a commitment, and it's great to have Evan on board. Super talent like yourself, Hannah. He's gonna do great things in journalism and photojournalism.
Hopefully.
So, ladies, I hope you have a great weekend, whatever's left of it. Thanks for taking the time out, and we'll see you same time next week.
Looking forward to it.
For more intelligent chat with the big kid here.
That's about amongst women, John.
I'm doubly blessed. I have to say, I'm doubly blessed. So, to our wonderful viewers, I hope you had a great Christmas. Have a wonderful 2021, and let's all get vaccinated very, very, very soon. Bye for now.